Welcome to the Nasboys podcast. Now, did you know that the night before the 1987 Firecracker 400, Kyle Petty required a couple of stitches after a chair fell on his head in the garage area? Now, he happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when Brad Parrott, a crew member on Bobby Allison's team, accidentally knocked a chair off the top of Dale Earnhardt's trailer. The rumors that Parrott is a disgruntled music critic are assumed to be false, as Petty had sang Thursday night in a Daytona Beach nightclub during the release of that NASCAR music album. Forgot what it was called, but I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about. So that was actually a very odd fact. I didn't know that that existed until we did a race reaction to that exact race, which if you all want to go check it out, it's right here. So anyways, guys, welcome to the Nasboys podcast. I'm your host, Mike, a.k.a. Mike Fob Fan 101, with my good friend and co-host, Christian, a.k.a. Savage NASCAR.
What I do Nasboys crew, and that was quite an interesting fact. Honestly, when I first read that, I laughed. But yeah, we got a lot to get into today. Where do we even start? We just got so much stuff. That Daytona just definitely, we knew there was going to be chaos, but we didn't expect some of that stuff. And then, Milwaukee Mile was pretty good, as well. So, I felt like that was a very successful race. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we?
Yep. I guess we're going to kick things off with the Cup Series regular season finale. Christian, if you got a chance to watch the race, what did you think of it?
Martin Truex Jr. won. He clinched the regular season championship. But one thing that I found kind of funny, Chase Elliott won last year, and he's now in the playoff this year. And I'm pretty sure Truex Jr. Didn't make it last year and won this year. So that's another quite interesting fact. I believe that's the case. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Um, I'm glad it didn't rain out because the last couple of years it's rained out on Saturday, and they ended up having to move it to Sunday or Monday. So, first off, starting in the race, I was definitely surprised a little bit by how Western Haas racing was at certain points because I believe I had Chase Briscoe in my fantasy lineup and Eric Almirola and Priest in my lineup. And it was kind of like I had to switch them in and out a couple of times because they just couldn't stay in the top 10 towards the end of the stages. I had to keep switching them out. And also to switch out Brad Keselowski at one point because I thought he was only back in like 36th at one point. But then he worked his way up to the front, as we'll discuss towards a little bit later. Blaney had a strong car. I had him on my fantasy lineup too. I believe. Didn't you have him on your lineup as well? I know I picked Blaney to win.
I fortunately did not have Blaney in my fantasy lineup. I'm gonna pull up mine if I can. There it is. So I had Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell, Joey Logano, Bubba Wallace, Eric Almirola, and Brad Keselowski.
No, that makes sense because you ended up winning. Yeah.
I won the league. So yeah, thank you, those guys.
Yeah, I should have picked Buescher, but considering he's had a couple bad races in the night races at Daytona, I thought he was going to wreck out. But I thought it was pretty solid. The first two stages were actually pretty good. Considering the last couple of restrictor plate tracks, they've been pretty single file throughout the beginning of the race. So them to stay 2-3 wide was pretty entertaining. At those speeds, obviously it's more dangerous, and we knew that there was going to be at least some big wreck. And we did end up seeing the big one with Ryan Blaney getting hooked into the wall. We saw Bell get into Gibbs and put Blaney in the wall in a very, very hard hit and a bad angle. If you haven't seen that, here it is.
Christopher Bell, the 20 car on the outside, Rick.
Yeah, the back end. Oh, into the wall hard goes Ryan Blaney off the nose of Ty Gibbs, and the big one happens behind him.
And it brought so many people into it. Look at all these cars. Good race cars, big impacts.
Yeah, only 6 cars have gone through already. Look at how many cars involved.
So I'm glad that Blaney was okay. That was quite the hit. And we saw a lot of good cars swept up in it, and we saw some barely get through, like Chase Elliott and Bubba Wallace. they barely got through. So I felt like Riley Herbst had a really good car because he was up in the top 5 at one point. He ended up getting caught up in that wreck. And then later on, it got a little bit tamer after that. For a little period of time, we saw RFK Racing work their way up to the front. Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano were working together for a while too, so it was cool to see two veterans work together too. Both of two of our favorite drivers. You like Logano's your favorite driver, and then Kevin Harvick, one of my favorites, were working together. And honestly, coming towards the end of the race, I thought, that Eric Almirola had been more of a factor. He was up towards the front at various points, and then we just saw a lot of people get shuffled out. Kyle Busch, he got shuffled out at one point as well, and Chase Elliott, he had a very up and down day too. So, Denny Hamlin, he was a contender. I believe he had a pit road penalty, and that's what put him so far back, and it really ended up ending his race basically then and there. And then we saw Ryan Preece go flying in the air. I mean, good grief.
A big push coming now for Harvick. Oh, and around goes a couple cars. Preece upside down. He's barrel rolling through the grass. Ryan Preece upside down in the infield.
When we had the race on TV, on one of the TVs, or actually I had it on I was watching a stream of it while at Third Vision Studios, and dude, our reactions, dude, we were just shocked. We're like, what was that? Like, this looked like a video game, and definitely one of the worst wrecks we've seen in the last 5 years, at least 5-10 years, if not one of the worst Daytona wrecks of all time. I mean, the way the car went flying in the air, it was like 20 feet in the air. It's definitely something that looked like out of a video game. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about it because I don't believe we really talked about it up before the podcast. So go ahead and share with us your thoughts on that whole deal.
I thought the wreck was obviously like everybody else thought. It was like a video game. Yeah, it really reminded me of Rusty Wallace's flip at Talladega in 1993.
Daytona.
I was really. This might come off as me sounding stupid, but just hear me out. I am really surprised with the roof flaps that they don't deploy as much as they used to. And I was talking about it a little bit with some guys in my my NASCAR chat. One guy thinks it's because of the diffusers on the bottoms of the cars, and he thinks it's treating it like the COT wing, which after thinking about it for a couple minutes, I can understand his point. When the cars had the big wing with the COT, we saw a lot of big flips, like the Michael McDowell flip at Texas, for example. Brad Keselowski. Well, actually, yeah, Brad Keselowski and Carl Edwards kind of going into the catch fence and the wall, respectively. So I can understand what he's saying. And then another guy mentioned that it was because of the flat bottoms, and then they both came to the conclusion that it might be because of those. So I feel like if NASCAR can take a look at what is going on with the diffusers, and maybe if they investigate why that was such a violent flip and they find something with the diffusers, I think they should take them out, at least to try it, so we don't have as many bad flips. But, I was really surprised, again, that the roof flaps didn't deploy as well. Like they did. You could see it as he flipped, but also the hatch deployed. And then the window net went down without even having to do it. It was that violent of an impact. And it's really surprising. And even though luckily he got out of the car, it's just really surprising to see that with today's cars compared to the Gen 6, where, yes, the cars were like a lot damaged, but you didn't see the roof hatch opening up and you didn't see the window nets coming down like in the 70s. So I found that very odd, and I'm glad that Preece is seemingly okay, even though he had to be stretchered off the track and he had to go to the hospital. So yeah.
I definitely agree with some of your points. I do think that the diffusers has always been a interesting thing. Like I've never been a fan of them. Personally, I don't get why they're on a NASCAR, but there is some different things that are on this section car that I'm just like, why? But to me, then again, safeties come so far, and the window net going down is definitely a big red flag because I mean it's the window net. Like I mean, come on, the last time we did have window net was like back in 1970 and then part of 1970 in the 60s, and then I feel like if that was a car that was made in the 60s or 70s, he would have been really injured. Like, I mean, it just shows you how far safety's gone. And, you know, there wasn't as much damage as I thought there was going to be. Yeah, the whole front was basically gone, but the roof cage, like the roll cage, everything stayed intact. And he flipped like 11 and a half times too. So that's pretty crazy. And then, fast forwarding, he did have to go to the hospital. He was released the next morning, and Ryan Priest, he's not had a great year, but I feel like he can improve. I just don't know if he's going to be a solid Cup driver for in his career. But moving on, I think that the finish, I was hoping Harvick was going to win because he was up front there. But just couldn't get it done. And Busher and Brad Keselowski have always been a great duo. They've worked well together. They worked well together at Daytona. So I mean, congrats to Busher. I mean, 3 wins with RFK Racing this year. I didn't think that he would have 3 wins. If someone were to tell me he was going to have 3 wins in a season like 2 or 3 years ago, I've been like, you're crazy.
Right.
So big props to that team. They struggled a lot last year, but they've definitely made some good improvements. I did say last year, the year before, that it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get to improve, and they've improved faster than I thought they would. So, that's good. I think that, Bo Walsh getting into the playoffs, we all saw that coming because he was basically good on points. And if Gibbs and Elliott would have had the win to basically get in, Gibbs got caught in a wreck. And then Elliott, he had a decent race, but just wasn't a contender. So, it's definitely, I'd say it's definitely I will say it did kind of bring a smile to my face that Elliott didn't make the playoffs because I mean, I've sort of pulled for him before when he's been in the championship before, but I mean, there's times I just can't stand him, and I can't stand some of his fans. I'm not saying all of them, but I can't stand some of his fans, and I can't stand sometimes the way he drives. But it is what it is. I think he, I've heard some things about fans, his interactions with fans. I think that's mainly the main reason why I'm not like I don't really pull for him anymore. So. Anyways, besides that, I think that the Daytona race was definitely an 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I'll give it a 7 out of 10, and it definitely lived up to the hype. What about you?
Well, I thought that it was really cool how well they were racing in the beginning. Like normally in Daytona races, we see a lot of wrecks in the first and second stages, but for them to keep it clean till toward the end of the second stage was honestly very shocking. And they weren't really training that much. I mean, they did a little bit of trains, but that's okay. It's to be expected. Stewart-Haas Racing definitely dominated, like you were mentioning. Chase Briscoe actually led 67 laps, and Eric Almirola was right there with him the whole time. I felt like they raced really well together. Let's see. I mean, Logano, I thought he had it almost at the end. I thought him and Almirola were going to catch the RFK boys, but I don't know. I think that they are just doing something different. Like legally, of course, I think they're doing something different, but they have a lot more speed than the rest of the Ford drivers. I think right now I can see where people are talking about where they're kind of like the best Ford team, at least at the moment, because both their cars look really, really fast. And we saw it toward the end of the race. That big one that Bell caused, easily his fault. I mean, you could see all the other drivers, like, not saying they were lifting off the throttle, but they were not following as close as Bell was to Ty Gibbs and trying to bump him. And, I get Bell is trying to help his teammate get to the playoffs and, all that, but it's stupid when, it's just the second stage and you're already bumping him in the corner. You don't bump in the corner, first of all. But you're bumping him in the corner. What did you think was going to happen? And he got taken out along with think like half the field got taken out. That was really surprising, and I'm glad Ryan Blaney's okay. He was having a great night. I thought he could have had the car to win it as well, but then just he got caught up in stupidity. He mentioned it later that, you know, this is like the second Daytona race where he's gotten hooked in the right rear because of somebody else's stupidity, where he felt like he had a car to win, which I completely agree with him. And then the end of the race, obviously with the Priest flip, I mentioned how I felt about that, but the end of the race going into overtime, that was a pretty solid OT finish. I felt like, again, Almirola, Logano could have had it, but, you know, the RFK boys really worked well together. I give the race about a solid 8 out of 10 as well. And I guess going into some stats, Chris Buescher, he did lead 2 laps. Brad Keselowski led 6. Almirola led 3. Chase Elliott led 2 laps. Joey Logano led 9. Kyle Busch led 5. William Byron led 1. Kevin Harvick led 14.
Yep.
Daniel Suarez led 1. Martin Truex Jr. led 4. Denny Hamlin led 12. Harrison Burton led 5. AJ Allmendinger led 8. He was really aggressive, might I add. I know he took the lead at one point. He was working with Chastain, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's see. Reddick led 17. Truex led 23. McLeod led 14. Excuse me.
Wait, McLeod? I didn't even realize he was up.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
know.
even
I think
see
that
that.
might have happened when they were cycling.
No, probably.
Let's see. Hamlin
Yeah.
led 14. Larson led 10. Burton led 9. AJ Allmendinger led 8. Let's see. Briscoe led 9. Priest actually led 6 laps. Gilliland led 5, but he was out with overheating.
Basically, everyone led at this point,
Pretty
and I'm
much.
surprised.
Dylan
Yeah.
Austin Dillon led 7. Ricky Stenhouse led 3. And Ty Gibbs led 9. Ryan Blaney led 1. Austin Cindric led 5.
Yeah, it's a lot
So,
of lap leaders. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, which I like. I mean, a lot of people
That's
leading
different.
laps. It's just different, right?
Yeah.
So,
What would you give the race out of 1 out of 10, and what did the people have to say?
I already mentioned it, but an 8.
Okay.
And 73% said great. 18% said good. 9% said man, that's okay. Nobody said bad. No thoughts, no driver of the day. I will give it to, I don't know. Kind of wanted to give it to Ryan Blaney, but he wrecked. Kind of wanted to give it to Joey Logano, but I don't think he deserves it. Briscoe led 67 laps, but I think he had an incident, so I can't really give it to him. I don't know. There's a lot of people that could be considered for driver of the day.
Honestly, I would give it to Keselowski, considering he was so far back at multiple points in the race.
Yeah.
And he worked his way back up there, and then he helped his teammate win. I'm going to give it to Keselowski.
You know what? I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. I'm gonna go Keselowski as well.
Gotcha.
Um,
Xfinity race, dude. I'm not going to lie. It was okay. It wasn't great. I know your pick won, Justin Allgaier. I thought that he's a solid plate racer, but I didn't expect him to win. But it was cool to see the Hellman's car win. I thought, if you remember, Casey Kane, I believe, won in a Hellman's car in the Xfinity night race before at Daytona. Austin Hill was pretty. He was all right in the race. I thought that my pick Chandler Smith would have competed more. There was just a couple incidents, but honestly, I thought the Xfinity race is the worst race of the weekend. I'll be honest with you. What did you think?
I think I'd have to agree with you, but I didn't mind this race. I thought it was pretty solid. Normally I don't like the Xfinity package, but I thought this race did a good job showing how it could actually work.
It was
So, but there were a lot of wrecks in this race. I counted because I had went out a little bit before the race, and when I got back, there was already like 4 wrecks. We saw one with Trevor Bayne, and I truly believe he caused this one. He claims that Austin Hill was on his back bumper, but if you looked at the onboard, you can clearly see Austin Hill was not on his back bumper. Here's that.
A clean restart. Hill goes up. He blocks the 19. They catch the 2, and the 1 goes around. The 19 of Bain sliding to the inside. Caution has come out. We see the 22 of Jeff Burton also involved. And now Casgralo looks back on who made it through that incident.
With you, bottom lane tight as well, all tight. All tight, just start washing those mirrors here.
I'm not so sure that Austin Hill even had to get there. He got hit from behind.
Chandler Smith in the 16 got into the back of Austin.
And I'm not sure the 19 wants to keep blocking. It's like he catches him on the right rear and it just moves the 19. He definitely makes one move to the right.
Yeah,
and then as soon as they touch bumpers, it's over.
When you watch from the in-car of the 21, he makes the movement with the steering wheel to go right. He thinks, man, I'm in a good position. This is on Casgrala's car. We'll see how he
Going out the back, 00, pushing, wrecking up here.
manages this wreck. Little contact right there on the right front.
All the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Now work your way up, up, work your way up, up.
Well, sometimes you could think, sometimes drivers feel like they're getting bumped, but they're actually not. It's just, you know, the air. Sometimes the way some of these cars are, they just they suck around on you, and they just you just lose grip in 3 and 4. And it's also stupid to bump traffic in 3 and 4 at Daytona, but
Well,
you know,
that's
we've seen plenty of people do it, and it results in wrecks.
right. Which I agree with what you said, but I just wanted to point out that Bain had
Yeah.
said that, and then I showed the onboard, if I could find the video that is with the onboard of Hill's car. Let's see. I think there was another one. I know there was one that took out Riley Herbst.
One, Sheldon Creed, and look at the problem for Herbst. So something did finally break on that 98.
The left front tires come apart, rip the whole left.
Riley
Yeah.
Herbst was really solid on Sunday. I forgot to mention, or Saturday night. He was really good.
He
I was
always
surprised.
wrecks, though. Every super
Yeah.
speed race, he wrecks.
Yeah, Parker Kilgerman or Kligerman, he did a really good job.
Yeah. He didn't make the
he-
playoffs, I don't think.
Well,
Or
I think
did
they
he?
have a couple more races, actually. I looked at the schedule, so he still has a chance.
I thought
He's
it
on the-
was the cutoff race.
I thought it was too. I can check real quick. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
it's
have
the
two
cutoff
more
race.
They have 2 more races till the playoffs. That's a complaint of mine. The Xfinity and trucks make it very confusing.
Yeah,
when
I'm
it
not
comes
gonna
to
lie,
playoff
dude. I
time.
thought that the Xfinity always ended the same time Cup did for the playoffs.
I thought so too.
But you know, I'm not a big playoff fan, so I don't keep track of it as much as some other people. But
I think the Xfinity and trucks make it very confusing with starting their playoffs around different times. But anyway, Parker Kilgerman is still in it, so we can still look at their cutoff line if we get a chance to.
yeah, I think honestly, Kilgerman could get in. I'm hoping the Siegs do, or at least Ryan Sieg gets in, because he's always a very consistent driver. He just always has something to happen. You know, he's contended, like he's came close on the play tracks. But you know who I really wanted to win there at the end was Sheldon Creed, because he's had a couple close calls this year where he could have won, and as I mentioned before, he could have won, and he just couldn't quite get there, or he got taken out by somebody.
Right. I think Priest can have, or not Priest, C can have a good chance at Darlington or Kansas. I've seen him have decent runs at both tracks. So it wouldn't surprise me if he could win at one of those. And I really want to see Ryan C get a win. I think he's deserved one for like 5 years now.
More than that. He's been in the Xfinity series for like 10, 12 years.
No, I know, but he's really picked it up from about like 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
And he's been sort of like a contender, if you will, somewhat. So I think he deserves a win, and he's just had bad luck. But another driver that's had a lot of bad luck was Sheldon Creed. That guy is like Daniel Hemmer. He finds any way to lose a race that he can.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
And last weekend, obviously, he had the lead. He was so close, and then Justin Allgaier got him at the last second. That was a solid finish, I'd say. Wasn't one of the best finishes, but it was very solid.
Coming out of the 7 as he goes through turn 1. Is there an issue? Up the racetrack he goes to block the 48, now back down to block the 2. Allgaier, a car length and a half in front.
Everybody's down in that bottom lane. Good push is coming on the bottom here. The 11 and the 2. Big run.
Creed, what's he going to do with it? He looked high. Now he's side by side for the lead. Sheldon Creed, a half a car length ahead. Could this be the night? Here comes Allgaier. He's got momentum. They're side by side. Allgaier at the line. He'll win at Daytona.
All right. So 58% said great. 42% said good. 0% said meh/okay. 0% said bad. Henry24257 says, it was good. Wish we got a different winner, but GG Allgaier. And then driver of the day, nobody. I don't know. I felt like Austin Hill was leading. Trevor Bayne was leading a lot. Allgaier did a good job coming back toward the end to win it. Sheldon Creed was up there a lot. Who would you have to say?
Honestly, this is one of those races where it's kind of like, do we even have a driver today? Because there's so many things that's kind of like they all have like a valid reason.
True.
You know what? I'm just gonna give it to Allgaier.
Allgaier, yeah. Why not? I guess if I had to, but I see what you're saying.
Gotcha.
Truck race at Milwaukee Mile. What did you think of it?
I mean, it looked like a decent crowd. There was definitely some seats missing towards the bottom part of the grandstands, but it looked like a decent crowd there. And, I was definitely shocked by how well Grant Enfinger was. I knew, like, the beginning of the year, he kind of struggled a little bit, and he ended up picking it up as the season went along, but I didn't think he was going to dominate like that. I knew he was going to be up in the top 10, but he just spanked the field, to be honest. He won the first few stages. I believe he did fall back a little bit towards the end. There was a period where he was like back in like 10th or so, and then worked his way up to the front in the final lap. So he just seemed to have the fastest car overall and was just really good at this track. The track kind of reminded me a little bit of New Hampshire, the way they worked the middle of the track at various points. One driver that I thought was going to do really well, that he was running well in the race, William Salowich. I was like, man, it would be cool to see him get top 5, and then he ends up getting wrecked. So that did not happen. He got loose underneath Ben Rhodes, I believe, and he put in the wall. So,
Michael?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sawalich brings out our caution for the 6th time today.
tough break. You see him moving around in the truck. Tough break for Sawalich, but this may be the time. We're going to have about 40 laps to go for that Hail Mary to come in and put some tires on. Even though we don't have that many laps on the tires. Only, about 20 laps on these tires.
And 25 trucks on the lead lap.
A lot of trucks on the lead lap for sure.
Yeah, we put a lot down in that first stage, around a lot of green flag laps, but since then there's been quite a few cautions putting more trucks back on the lead lap.
Just got a little bit loose inside of Ben Rhodes.
that was pretty unfortunate. I was hoping he was going to get a good run. I believe there was one sort of like multi-car wreck in 3 and 4. If you haven't seen that, here it is.
Oh, there's trouble.
We get the answer to our question. Yes, there will be another caution.
No.
Tough break for a playoff contender, Nick Sanchez. He came down pit road, restarted right around the 10th position. The 2 is in the wall after having such a good stage 1, stage 2.
See the damage to the left front. He can get that truck refired. He's trying to refire it right now. He's going to run it. He actually had to slow. Sanchez slowed for Haley Deegan, and Corey Heim ran in the back of him and turned him around.
I forgot who it was, but he got caught up behind Deegan and got loose and hit the wall. I know there was a couple other people that had a little bit of similar, like single car incidents. Matthew Benedetto, he's a playoff driver, and he absolutely struggled in this race. He finished like 2 or 3 laps down. He did not have a good day. What did you think about the race? And, I think that they should return to this track more.
I think they should return to it, but from what I saw, I thought it was more typical truck racing. Like, I didn't really see anything too different, to be completely honest. I agree with what you were saying about New Hampshire. It did run like New Hampshire now that I'm thinking about what I saw. And from that multi-car incident that you had mentioned, it was actually Nick Sanchez. He was having a pretty solid day, but, you know, due to the fact that Deegan is slow and doesn't deserve that Thor Sport 13 car or
It's all
truck,
Deegan's fault.
she was so slow. And Sanchez did the right thing trying to slow down because he wasn't clear on the bottom to pass her, so he had to slow down, and Heim didn't realize he was checking up. So it caused an accordion effect. You know, that sucks for Nick Sanchez. He's a solid driver. And he got screwed up because Deegan can't run as fast as these guys.
All right. I would like to see you drive a car at over 100 miles per hour.
You know what? I probably couldn't, but which I'll give props to Deegan. But you know what? You are a simp for defending her for that.
Okay, now
That's my
we're calling
comment.
out simps here. You're the one that follows her and you like her posts, so I don't want to hear it.
I like NASCAR drivers. Your point being?
No, it's fun. I'm not gonna lie. I will say she definitely caused the wreck, but then again, I'm just joking with you. I think that she definitely did slow up a little bit, but you know, Sanchez is a playoff driver, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was a little upset by that.
Which I wouldn't blame, right?
I can see him winning though in the playoffs, but will he make the next round though because of this? I don't know. Taylor Gray was running well too, and Chase Purdy as well in that race.
I think Sanchez is in right now by 3 points, which is probably not where he wants to be. And does he have one more race to? Yeah. So Nick Sanchez has one more race at Kansas to try to make it to the next round. And then right behind him.
Yeah, he's pretty solid.
Right, and right behind him, though, is Ben Rhodes, a former truck champion. So that'll be interesting to see how that race shapes up.
Yeah, it will be.
Sanchez did a great job at Texas, and I feel like Texas and Kansas are kind of similar, so I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Sanchez gets a top 5.
It's going to be a good battle because, you know, Ben Rhodes is pretty good at Kansas. So, I mean, the thing is, Matt Crafton, he's consistent, but he doesn't win. And Crafton's always been good at Kansas too, so it's just going to be a good battle. I think if, in terms of experience, I could see Ben Rhodes beating out Sanchez. I think that Crafton would have to have something go wrong significantly to the next round. He's just the top 4 or 5 finishers at Milwaukee Mile made the playoffs. So, or not made the playoffs. The top 5 finishers were in the playoffs. So, what do you have any other thoughts about this race?
I mean, just overall solid race. Grant Enfinger has dominated a lot, and you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if he could come back and win his way to be the champ. That's a hot take, but if he does win it, I would not be surprised at all. He is looking really good right now. Take a look at what you guys had to say. 0% said great, 50% said good, 50% said mustache okay, nobody said bad. No thoughts, no driver of the day. I'm giving it to Grant Enfinger easily.
Oh, by far, no doubt. Now, news topic. What do you think about Richard Petty, or not Petty Motorsports, Petty GMS not going to be in trucks next year, and the 23XI situation? Because I think it's crazy that I feel like I saw someone say Jimmy Johnson is ruining the team, Legacy Motor Club. Honestly, I feel like it could be better managed in a way, and I definitely am disappointed about Petty GMS no longer being in trucks because they have some talent there, and they've improved. And for the improvements now be taken away, it's definitely a shame.
I agree. It's kind of like Furniture Row in a way. So for the first situation, GMS not being in trucks, really sad. Like you mentioned, they had some talent on there. Grant Enfinger, I felt like he was breaking out, even though he's a little older. I feel like he's now started to break out and really emerge as a contender that we all know he can be. And Enfinger has had some screwed up situations. He got kicked out of the 98 car or truck a couple years ago and had to run part-time between that and the 23 truck. And then now that he's shown that he can drive, GMS signed him on for a full-time ride. And now he gets kicked out again. So what's he going to do now? I really hope we see Grant Enfinger Daniel Dye apparently has signed a deal, and I have not heard any news about Raja Karuf, but I imagine Raja will get an Xfinity ride or another truck ride. I don't see why he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Dye will probably stay in the trucks, but it's a sad situation. But I agree with a lot of people's point that GMS probably didn't want to switch to Toyota, and with Legacy switching to Toyota, that's not good. And Toyota, I guess, didn't want them on the team because they already have KBM. So really sucks for GMS, but they still have some sort of stake in Cup, even though their Cup team is very mid. And as for the point that Legacy is better managed, maybe in some ways, I feel like they've had a lot worse track performance.
Yeah,
But
I was saying I think that they have been managed well. I think they've had some ups and downs. I feel like Johnson owning the team, I just didn't think it was a great move. But then again, as a Johnson fan, I support it. But it's kind of like,
yeah, I mean, I don't mind necessarily like the whole rebrand that they did, but the on track performance has been atrocious. I feel like they are the worst like team kind of that's in the spotlight, if you will.
okay,
You can understand what I'm talking about. And I don't know if I worded it properly, but yeah.
might be dissing.
I mean, let's be real. A lot of people had high hopes for Legacy with how good Eric Jones did, and then Noah Gragson being on the team, and they both have not looked very good. And I know that it's not all their faults, but both of them have not been good.
I mean, Jones has had some good runs this year, but not as good as last year. I don't think.
That's what I mean.
He hasn't even won this year too. So I mean, then again, he won the Southern 500 last year, and the Southern 500 is coming up. So Jones is decent at Darlington. I don't think he's going to be like. I don't think he's going to win Darlington, but I think he'll be decent.
Right, I agree with that. Let's see. And then for the 23XI situation, obviously, if you have not heard, there's a lot of people that are speculating that Denny Hamlin and Toyota are not really happy with each other. Some people think FedEx is not going to return. Some people think Hamlin's going to leave Ford for some reason. I don't know how to feel about this because on Saturday I saw that Denny Hamlin and Toyota are pleased with how 2311 has been. And some people think if they go to Ford, they'll sign Zane Smith and have a third charter with XHR selling 2 of their charters off, apparently. I think that if Toyota loses Denny Hamlin, they are just going to go downhill from here because they already lost Kyle Busch last year.
Yeah.
I don't think Ty Gibbs and Christopher Bell are obviously they're not as good of drivers as Hamlin, but are they really like good enough to be in the spotlight as much as Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch? I don't think they both are. Maybe Gibbs will in the future, but coming into his second year, let's just say hypothetically they do lose Hamlin. No. Joe Gibbs will just be a young team and then Martin Truex Jr. And then who knows how long Truex is going to stay after that. He can just stay this next year and then leave.
You know, Truex Jr., I'm glad he didn't retire because he's honestly had a great season. And I think that he's still got another couple years left in him. And, you know, Kurt Busch, he's basically announced his retirement, but he's also thinking about, you know, racing in other series and maybe even racing every once in a while. So he's not coming back to 23XI. So it's kind of, you know, it's definitely a very interesting situation to say the least. I think that if Denny Hamlin does leave JGR, it'll definitely their team's just not gonna be as good. They're gonna have to rebuild or something. I don't know. But anyways, let's talk Darlington real quick. I think that are all 3 there this weekend?
No, it's just Xfinity and Cup.
Okay, so Xfinity Series. If Kyle Larson's racing, I got Larson because he's solid at Darlington, and if he's not racing, I'm gonna go with Sammy Smith. And then what about you?
I think Kyle Busch is racing, so if he is actually racing, I'm going to go with him. If Ty Gibbs is racing and Kyle Busch is not, then I'm going with Ty Gibbs. But if not, I'm going to say JHN.
Gotcha. And then Cup Series, I always love the Southern 500. I'm looking forward to watching it. This guy, I got a lot of pictures of in the spring race, and right here is pit crew 2. Got a couple shots of him. I think this driver is going to win the Southern 500. He was really dominant in the early parts of the race in the Goodyear 400. I'm going with Martin Truex Jr. to win the Southern 500 this year.
You stole my pick. I'm going with the same guy, Martin Truex Jr. And so with that will conclude this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. Make sure you guys follow our socials. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Peace!
See y'all.
You want me calling now, you wanting what I think.